My name's Silas. I'm an HVAC tech with 10,000 hours experience. Today, let's go over how much you should be making at each year of your apprenticeship. So, first things first, let's talk about hourly, right? So, year one, you don't really know too much. Now, because this is a manual labor job, you should be getting more than minimum wage. Where I'm at, it's 15 an hour minimum. Now, if you're at, $7 an hour, let's say probably somewhere in Idaho, $7 an hour minimum wage, so you can have your $4 McChickens, you would probably be looking at $10 to $12 an hour starting. So you're looking for $3 to $5, 3 to 5 over a minimum wage. That's because basically you're getting paid to stand there to be a warm body, plus you're getting $3 to $5 extra an hour. They're not just paying for your time, they're actually paying for you to use your body to move heavy things, which is a higher tier service than, let's say, something like just making burgers, flipping burgers, etc. So salary, you're looking between $25,000 to $35,000 a year, depending on where you live. This is going to be your total before tax, probably. If you're lucky, taxes are going to be chill. Now, package, you're like, what the hell is a package? Package is for unions. Your package might be $7 to $10 above minimum wage because this includes retirement, insurance, this includes workers' comp, etc., which is going to basically make your life much, much easier and you take on much less risk by doing that. So that's why it's $7 to $10 an hour. However, you will still only be making on your paycheck 3 to 5. This shit doesn't actually go to your pocket. It goes to your account. So you would have a pay stub, and the pay stub would have a bunch of lines on it. Let's say, you have your gross pay. Your gross pay for a week, let's say it's going to be $1,400 because let's say you work 40 hours at, $22 an hour full package, but your net pay might only be $700. And they take $700 out of it because, it's like $300 for your retirement. It's like $300 for insurance. And it's like $100 for dental benefits or something stupid like that. That's kind of what it would break down to. So you're making $1,400 a week, which is, say you're doing that's like 70 grand a year, right? But the problem with that is you're only bringing home after taxes 700, which is like 40-ish thousand a year, or even less than that, depending on where you live. So that's kind of where you're at for an apprentice. So you want to aim for like 25 on the very low end. Never work physical labor for less than 25,000 a year. And this heavy emphasis here, if you're a helper, if you are leading tech, if you are the guy that is driving the truck, that is leading the team, you need to be making 45 a year minimum. And even 45 a year, that's peanuts. Okay. The guy that's driving the truck should be making 60K plus. Always. Doesn't matter how much experience you have. If you're driving the truck, if you're picking up the equipment, if you're taking the risks, right? So you got to think about it like this. Whoever takes the risks, risk equals value equals money. So the more risk you take, so for example, working at McDonald's, very low probability of injury. So you get paid minimum wage. You work as a tradesman, higher probability of injury, higher minimum wage, right? So that's where you're at. You got to say, what risks am I taking on? And am I being fairly compensated? If you're taking the risk, if your ass is on the line, if something goes sideways, that is a huge, huge L, and you need to be compensated for that in that position. Now, you shouldn't really go right from first year to lead tech. That doesn't make any sense. You should do like 2 years as just a helper, basically. That's 1 year minimum, right? So like 12 months minimum as a helper. You don't want to be doing less than a year as a helper. If you do less than a year as a helper, you're just getting thrown in the deep end and you're gonna have a bad day. Let me tell you that. So that's year one. Year two, this is gonna be on year two, you're gonna want to get a $2 to $5 raise, depending on where you're at. Year two, sometimes you get a truck. if you're in a truck, right, you should be getting paid a lot more. So in my second year, when I was 19, I think I made 77,000 in my second year. Gross, I brought home like 42 after expenses, etc. But that was because I got thrown in a truck on my second year. I'm going to assume second year apprentices are not in a truck, okay? So for the sake of the video, we're going to assume you get your truck and you start rolling solo on year 3, okay? So year 2, as a helper with a year of experience, you want to be getting $6 to $10 above minimum wage. You want to be making at least 40 to 50K. I'm going to say, unfortunately, this is going to be closer to 40, depending on how nice the company is. If you're doing service sales or if you're doing installs, it all depends. What are you getting in your package in the union? You're going to be getting $12 to $20 an hour above minimum wage. So this is going to be, $27 to $40 an hour full package. And this is going to be like 20 to 26 actually coming into your pocket, depending on your taxes. So the problem is it really depends where you're located, because the price of minimum wage trickles up and down. So you're not really going to be able to get a definite number. But yeah, like look for between 40 and 50K, because at this point you should be at least theoretically becoming an asset to the company, which means that you're showing up on time, you're getting work done, you're actually helping. In year 1, you can be a complete idiot, and that's why you only make 35K in year 1. I think my first year I made like $14,000, but that was because I only was being paid for half the year, and I got in as a co-op student, so it was kind of a different thing. Year 3, now you have a truck. You're wanting to get in and around, $15 an hour above minimum wage. This is pretty much where you're at. So let's say if it's 7, you want to be making 22 an hour. If it's 15, you want to be making 30 an hour. Simple as that. That's basically where we're at. You're going to be looking between 60 to 80K. Now, again, 80K is possible, but difficult. And 80K, you make your 80K working 80 hours a week. So know that these are not 40-hour weeks, okay? These numbers, they seem a bit high for the hourly, but these are not 40-hour weeks. You can be making 20 an hour, working, 70 hours a week, and you can be making $1,400 a week. Now, your package, by the time you're a third-year apprentice, probably your package is going to be similar to your hourly, to be honest. So your full package was 27 an hour. Maybe your full package is 30 now. Whereas here, you might have been getting 21 an hour, and now you're probably getting 27. Year 4, this is where you start making money. You should be making $20 more than minimum wage. You're going to be making, but you should be making 70K. Assuming that you are in your own truck and not a complete retard, you will make 70K on your 4th year. This is going to be the year. 4th year is when you're usually going to be actually in a truck, or maybe not in a truck, but this is where you start unlocking real progress. And in union, this is where you get your actual pay. This is where you get your actual money. Now you're going to be like minimum $20 above minimum wage. Depends on the union too. Unfortunately, depends on where you are. This is the problem with HVAC. It's very, very different for each company. So this is the part where you're making 20 an hour above minimum wage. So this is meaning you're going to be like 27 to 33 an hour in actual wages in your hourly. And your full package should be about 42 an hour, roughly speaking. Roughly speaking, you want a full package of about somewhere in the low 40s or high 30s is where you want your package to be. You want that to include gas. At this point, you're in a truck, you want to start getting compensated for your gas. And this is where you start making real money. 5th year, you need to be making 80K a year. Before, these are all money before taxes, 25 above minimum wage. So 5th year, you should be making 35-ish an hour. 35 is where you want to be in your 5th year, assuming you actually have a head on your shoulders. This is if you're working hourly. 80K is a decent salary, plus full package now you're 25 above minimum wage. which means you want to be in and around 50, low 50s, right? Low 50s an hour as your full package. Whereas your take home will probably be closer to like 29 to 40 an hour. The reason this is a better deal, the reason the union is a better deal is because you get overtime. Unfortunately, with regular hourly, this does not have overtime. This does not have overtime. This has OT. If you're working for a mom and pop, there is no overtime. If you're working on salary, there is no overtime. If you're working for the union and you work more than 40 hours a week, bam, you're getting overtime. So that being said, this is kind of where you want to be. Now, keep in mind, this is for residential, but this is basically the box you want to stay in. This is basically where we're at and how much you make each year. If you're making, listen, here's the truth. If you are making less than this at every point above minimum wage, that's when you know you need to switch companies. However, it is heavily dependent on your skill set and your boss's ability to find another helper. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully this has been helpful. If you have any more questions about HVAC related stuff, I'd love to answer your questions down in the comments, and maybe I'll even make a video about it.